Hello, and welcome to this webinar titled Student-Centered Strategies, Strategies to Help Build Independent Learners. My name is Tara McMillan, and I am one of the Georgia Department of Education STEM Virtual Specialists. I am also the STEM Coordinator and Science Department Chair at Thomson Middle School. There are two types of classrooms that exist in schools today: teacher-centered classrooms and student-centered classrooms. In a teacher-centered classroom, the teacher provides the bulk of the instruction while the students sit and get the information. The students do a lot of worksheets and there's very little collaboration, labs, or hands-on activities done in these type of classrooms. In student-centered classrooms, students take ownership of their learning. There are a lot of hands-on, labs, and project-based learning activities where students are collaborating with each other and using critical thinking skills. Students also rely on each other to understand concepts that they are having difficulty with in the classroom instead of relying on the teacher. In a student-centered classroom, the teacher is the facilitator and not just a dispenser of information. And students rely on each other first before they go to the teacher for help or assistance. So how does one transition from a teacher-centered classroom to a student-centered classroom? Transitioning to a student-centered classroom does not happen overnight. However, there are small steps one can take to lead to a student-centered classroom. One step is allowing students to have a voice in the procedures and expectations of a classroom. When students play a role in creating the procedures and expectations in the room, they are more likely to follow those procedures and meet those expectations. Another step is to encourage collaboration among students. Allow students to work together frequently and allow students to have disagreements and resolve their disagreements on their own. Assigning leadership roles is another way to make your classroom student-centered. Pick peer tutors, technology leaders, lab assistants, or secretaries in the classroom. Create an environment where mistakes are embraced. Allow students to fail and then encourage them to reflect on their failures and make improvements for the next task. Remember, in a student-centered classroom, the teacher acts as a facilitator and not the dispenser of information. Student-centered strategies are strategies that promote collaboration, self-discovery, and ownership of learning. In a student-centered classroom, students do not rely solely on the teacher for information and help. Students learn to work together to conduct their own research and help each other out when they don't understand a concept or topic. There are a lot of student-centered strategies used in the classroom. However, for this webinar, we're going to focus on the following: choice boards, strategic grouping, jigsaw discussions, labs, presentations, self-assessments, student jobs, rubrics, Genius Hour, peer tutoring, and project-based learning. Choice boards, giving students a voice for their learning. Choice boards are a great way to engage students in the curriculum. It allows students to choose how they will learn about a new topic. Choice boards also differentiates instruction and personalizes learning for the students. It also helps build independence. Here is a choice board example for the rock cycle. Notice that students have a variety of options to show mastery of this topic. In this particular choice board, a 3x3, students are encouraged to pick a task in a tic-tac-toe format. So students can choose tasks diagonally, horizontal, or vertical. Here is a sample assignment from a choice board. In this particular assignment, the student chose to do a book on lab safety. In another choice board assignment, the student decided to do an informational book on energy. Strategic grouping, creating a collaborative culture. Strategic grouping is when students are placed in groups based on their abilities and/or personalities. The recommended group size for strategic grouping is 3 to 4 students. You will want to avoid placing friends in groups together and avoid mediating disagreements within the groups. Allow students to make their disagreements and resolve the disagreements all on their own. If you have a class with a large amount of English language learners, it is recommended that you pair the English language learners with the strong bilingual students in the group. Here is an example of a strategic grouping strategy I use when doing project-based learning assignments. I tend to pick group sizes of 3, typically with 2 male students and 1 female student. This encourages the female student to speak up and take on a leadership role when she is the minority in the group. Jigsaw discussion, piecing the content together. In jigsaw discussion, students are placed into groups and each group is given a different task or topic. Then the groups are brought back together after they have researched that task or topic and they share out their information to the entire class. The jigsaw strategy is a commonly used strategy in English language arts class, but it has great benefits in other subjects as well. In a recent 6th grade earth science lesson, the jigsaw method was used to help students explore how fossils show evidence of Earth's changing surface and climate. In this activity, students were placed in groups of 4, and each group was given a picture of a fossil along with a short description. As the students reviewed the description, they highlighted important facts about the fossil, to include the type of fossil it was, where it was found, and how long ago it was believed to be on Earth. Each group shared out this information in front of the class and then combined their information into a table. Once the students had the information from each of the group's fossils, they were placed in the groups to engage in discussion about the fossils and where they were found. The teacher, being the facilitator in the room, went around to each group asking probing questions. Here is a snapshot of the discussions that took place amongst each group.
A fern is like a plant, but facts I know about. So if it's found how is it found in Antarctica if it's colder? But remember, it wasn't always. Oh yeah, it wasn't always. Because the desert used to be a jungle, kind of. Oh yeah, and they used to be like swamps. Oh yeah. And now they're like a desert. So probably these places, like the sea was very big. They're probably connected somehow. Yeah. So, oh yeah, because they were all one.
You have to know something about reptiles in order to synthesize the information. You have to know something about these places. But you have to tie the two together.
Is India a desert? It's like in land. It's only in south. It's in all the hot places. It's in like the slimy area. It's really cold water. It's cold water. So they probably couldn't live. I can't swim far. It can't swim as far. Because in Antarctica there's no plants, so it can't really. If it's a plant, it's like a plant.
And it's just cold, so they couldn't survive, and there's not a bunch of rain.
I think And in South Africa, it's not that much. It's not that much water.
Yeah.
Well, if it's on the coast, yeah.
So I think the first one, Antarctica, is wrong. The second one is probably right because the
It's a
Sinornis.
dog.
Yeah, it's a dog, so it can live in the heat. It has water, so it can drink,
I feel
and it
like
can kill other people, like
the
things.
plant is only
Yeah, me too.
I have a theory of the plant.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for that collaboration. Anybody else in group one can expound on what Miss Lexi said? That was a good observation. I didn't even think about that. Mr. Aiden.
We were talking about how it would be able to live in Antarctica because it was so cold, but it was because it was closer to the equator back then. Because Pangea, everything was all together, so it wasn't as cold as it is now. And like she was saying, like the seed was too big for it to move somewhere else, so it like all died off whenever.
Okay, thank you, group one. Who was group two? Raise your hand. Miss. So who else was group two? Effie, you in group two? Okay, then that was group two. So, Mr. Effie, you are going to be the spokesperson for group two. What did group two discuss, Mr. Effie?
They all live in South Africa.
So you all made a connection that everyone up there has South Africa. That was a good connection. What else?
They all associated with water.
Associated with water some kind of way? Okay, thank you. Mr. Who else was group two? Miss Audrey, what did you say? What was your observations for group two?
The sun became basically a linear, the linear of tile as in like the south. And then the lids and the L one.
Mr. Saris.
Yeah, it's basically all hot weather where like and then the freshwater tile, like there's water around those places, like water.
Okay. Good observations, group two. Group three, who was in group three? So Miss Lily Kate, you're gonna be the spokesperson for group three. What were your observations? What were the observations your group came up with?
Well, we agreed that the first one, since it was a plant, it could be in Antarctica because plants need sunlight and warmth to grow. And can't remember any of that.
Good job, I like that. Who else from group three? Mr. Jamore.
For the how do you say that?
Mesosaurus.
Mesosaurus. Since I don't think South Africa has a lot of water, they have to live on the coast because it's a freshwater reptile.
I just want to tell you all that you all.
Notice that through the jigsaw discussion, the teacher did not tell the students whether they were correct or incorrect. She just listened to their observations, but at the same time, she was able to gauge who had prior knowledge about the topic and who didn't. This would assist the teacher greatly in planning the next student-centered activity in this lesson moving forward. The jigsaw method can also be used in 7th grade when studying body systems. In the body system unit, the teacher can place students in groups of 3 and assign each group a body system. Next, the students can research their body system by using teacher-approved websites and/or textbooks. Then the teacher will allow each group to share out their information with the other groups once they have completed all of their research. This would allow the students to draw their own connections between the body systems while the teacher acts as the facilitator. Labs, hands-on activities that promotes learning by doing. Labs are a great way to engage students in learning. Labs pique students' interest, are kinesthetic activities that embed content and require students to utilize their background knowledge to access the new knowledge that is being learned in the lab. Here is a lab example of a Earth layers activity done in 6th grade Earth Science. In this lab activity, the students are modeling the composition of the mantle using cornstarch and water. This activity not only helps the student understand the composition of the mantle in regards to Earth's layers, but also builds knowledge for further units such as plate tectonics.
Now hold your hand upside down.
In this second lab example, students are analyzing how the angle of sunlight affects the temperature at different latitudes. This lab was also a great way to incorporate math concepts such as box and whisker plots and basic graphing skills. In this lab example, students are exploring soil erosion by using a device they built in agriculture class to look at how soil is eroded when there is vegetation versus when there is no vegetation. The student also explored how soil erosion occurs on different types of soil without vegetation. This was a great interdisciplinary lab to not only teach students about soil erosion, but also help students become well adept in being good farmers in their agricultural class. Presentation, using media resources to display learning. Presentations are a great way to help build confidence in the classroom by preparing students to speak in front of an audience or to speak in front of a camera. It allows students to practice phonics and fluency, and it pushes students to delve deeper into content as they strive to be the expert in the topic that they are presenting. Presentations can be done on various platforms to include different social media apps, Flipgrid, Prezi, PowerPoint, Peer Deck, and Powtoons, just to name a few. Now let's look at two presentations by a student who was discussing a prototype solar panel built for the NASA
Hi
Orion
guys,
mission.
this is our Mars replica, and this is our solar panel for the Orion mission for Mars when we go to Mars in 2030. So we made our solar panel to go around in a 360 degree angle and a 180 degree angle, so it can capture all of the sun rays on Mars because we can't actually put energy down in Mars. So we can like basically connect with Earth and just basically be able to contact Earth and be able to. Bye. This is our first prototype for the NASA Orion mission, and this is our second prototype for the NASA Orion mission. For our first solar panel, we didn't know all the stuff to basically have what we needed. Like the dust storms, we didn't have any windshields, whereas in this one, we had windshield wipers to make sure if any dust got in the little dome that we have, it could brush off. And this one can spin around in a 360 degree angle, and it can also go up and down at a 180 degree angle. And this one can only go up and down, but it also has this as a solar panel, and it also has battery operated saved power in case something breaks it or anything, or it goes down, so it can back up the base they have on Mars. And this is also part of the backup generator, and it also holds the solar panel up. And yeah, thank you guys for watching.
Self-assessments, allowing students to self-reflect on their learning. Self-assessments are tools used by students to track their own learning. They include digital portfolios, journals, student-teacher conferences, peer review critiques, and proficiency reports. One self-assessment tool that we use in our science classroom is the peer review of the STEM notebooks. Each student has a STEM notebook, and every time they complete a lab or engineering design project, it must be peer reviewed. The reviewer checks the notebook for several criteria to include that the student has a header and footer, that format and spelling is accurate, if there are numbers or calculations in the engineering book, that they have the correct units, that all questions are answered in complete sentences, and that students answer all parts of the questions. If the criteria is met, the student signs and dates the bottom, indicating that lab or engineering design project has been accurately peer reviewed and everything is correct and in order. Student jobs, placing students in leadership roles. Student jobs is an easy and productive way to make your classroom student-centered. When you give a student a job in your classroom, you are placing that student in a leadership role and giving them responsibility. Therefore, you are letting that student know that you trust them, which helps build relationships with that student in your classroom. It also allows the student to be role model for other students. And as an added incentive, it extrinsically motivates other students to want to do well so they can earn a leadership role in the classroom too. There are several jobs that can be issued to students in the classroom. These include tech support, lab assistants, inventory specialists, peer tutors, teacher trainers, lab managers, and secretaries. Tech support are those students who are tech savvy and can troubleshoot computer errors and help students with login issues. Lab assistants are those students who work with the teacher when conducting and performing labs. Inventory specialists are students who keep track of inventory either in the science classroom or in the building as a whole. Peer tutors are those students who master the curriculum faster than the other students and become an asset to the teacher in the classroom, as they can host small group tutoring sessions while the teacher works one-on-one with struggling learners. Teacher trainers are students who can assist teachers with technology issues or using technology apps such as Nearpod and Edmodo. Lab managers are students who keep track of all the inventory inside of the lab and lets the teacher know when lab supplies are low. And secretaries are those individuals in the classroom who gather work and assignment for those students who are absent so that those materials are ready upon a student's return. Rubrics, a scoring guide used for evaluation. Rubrics are a great way to prepare a student for academic success in your class. A rubric is a guideline of expectations for a particular task or assignment. Rubrics allow students to know ahead of time what is expected of them before they actually complete a task. Therefore, when a student does not master a particular task, the rubric also serves as a great self-assessment tool to help students identify their mistakes and correct them for the future. Here's an example of a rubric that is used for constructive responses in science class. Notice that a student can be labeled as a developing learner, proficient learner, or a distinguished learner. And the student is evaluated on content and vocabulary, style and fluency, and grammar and punctuation. When completed constructed responses, students always have this rubric available so they know the expected guidelines for a proficient learner and a distinguished learner, therefore eliminating any doubt of what is expected in the classroom. Genius Hour, when students are given time to research topics of their interest. Genius Hour is a strategy adopted from Google. It is based on the premise that a teacher allocates a certain amount of classroom time for independent research projects. These projects are topics that are based on students' passions or interests. It involves the students answering a guiding question, conducting research on that question, and then presenting that research to their peers. Genius Hour is a great way to keep students engaged in learning when they have mastered content faster than the other students. Here are some examples of Genius Hour ideas. Teaching geology using Minecraft, coding using Scratch, hydroponics in a water bottle, build your own mobile app, or creating a weather balloon. Peer tutoring, learning from each other. Peer tutoring is when students help each other understand concepts without relying on the teacher. Peer tutoring encourages collaboration and promotes an equitable learning environment. It also helps build confidence for the tutor and the learner. Project-based learning, learning through real-world problem solving. In project-based learning, students access knowledge by solving real-world problems. A problem-based learning assignment can last several weeks or even the entire school year. Problem-based learning promotes collaboration and critical thinking while sparking creativity amongst learners. Here's an example of a project-based learning assignment. In this project-based learning assignment, students had to determine how to build a solar panel that will be feasible for astronauts to use on Mars. So first the students had to sketch a prototype and label all its parts. Then several weeks later, the students had to build an actual 3D model of their solar panel using household materials. In another extension of the NASA missions, students learn how NASA navigate rovers on Mars by coding and programming their own rover to complete a specific path. Mousetrap cards is another project-based learning assignment where students explore how the potential energy stored in a mousetrap can be used to power a car made out of balsa wood and CDs. In this project-based learning assignment, students design and build windmills and then test them for efficiency by measuring how many washers the windmill could lift.
Okay. I'm watching here. Okay.
Let it rip. Let go, Trent. Let go. Good job.
In an extension of the windmill lesson in the gifted class, the students connected the windmill to an energy sensor and a voltage probe to measure the amount of energy generated by the windmill in joules. If you would like to learn more information about the strategies you learned in this webinar or to network with other virtual STEM specialists, go to www.community.gadoe.org, and when you get to the site, click on Create an Account. And once you create that account, be sure to join any of the 4 STEM groups that are within the community. Thank you.